It was anything but a silent, holy night in mid-December 1862. Christmas was just days away as darkness descended over Fredericksburg, Virginia. The battle fought on December 11th through the 13th had resulted in 18,000 casualties, a shocking end for an already bloody year of war in America. As the wounded lay on the field or were evacuated for aid, soft colors drifted in the night sky. Northern Lights. Each army interpreted the natural phenomenon differently, each taking it as a good omen. It made men pause and wonder, and days later the Christmas holiday would have the same effect. A bright and joyous holiday juxtaposed with a war seems oddly out of place, but yet it has happened through the centuries, frequently forcing soldiers and civilians to temporarily pull back from the violence, or at least reconsider their motives. Christmas in 19th century America was usually celebrated with religious activities, family, and a list of ever-growing traditions. Soldiers wrote about gifts, snowball fights, memories of ice skating, or a week of parties, and wondered if Santa Claus could arrive at their homes or pay a visit to camp. For the soldiers in the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia and the Union Army of the Potomac, Christmas seemed like a distant memory, especially as both armies built winter camps, huddled at sentry posts, and faced the reality of the empty places around the fires which their friends had occupied. John Henry Partington had volunteered in June 1862 and joined Company B of the 24th Michigan Infantry Regiment. Camped along the north side of the Rappahannock River, he wrote to his wife Sarah on Christmas Eve.
No one knows the feeling of a husband and a father, away from home and everything looks so discouraging and dark that I am most sick and tired of it. But thank God I have my health good. Tomorrow is Christmas. Ours will be a dull one. I wish you a merry one and a happy new year.
Partington signed that letter to his family, "A kiss from John." On the opposite side of the river, General Robert E. Lee could have triumphed over his year of Southern victories, but instead he wrote reflectively to his family on Christmas Day.
But what a cruel thing is war, and separate, destroy families and friends, and mar the purest joys of happiness God has garnered us with in this world, to fill our hearts with hatred instead of love for our neighbors and devastate the fair face of this beautiful world.
Could something good come out of this devastating war? Soldiers on both sides wondered. Some wrote that they intended to be better men and more loving to their families when they returned home. The war was changing individuals, sometimes for worse, but oftentimes for better. However, a national change poised on the horizon of the coming year. Earlier in 1862, President Lincoln had issued a preliminary promise which he was prepared to sign as an official proclamation on January 1, 1863, safeguarding and promising freedom to enslaved men, women, and children within the Confederacy. Though not universally accepted, even by the soldiers in blue, the Emancipation Proclamation was a step toward the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, abolishing slavery. In Central Virginia, some formerly enslaved families were already able to celebrate a holiday in freedom. Many enslaved in Fredericksburg had escaped to the Union lines during the summer and early winter, taking the opportunity to find freedom for themselves. For them, Christmas 1862 would be very different and more joyous than previous years. Meanwhile, other civilians grappled with the destruction and increased difficulty from the battle that had trapped their community, or the camping armies that were fast changing the countryside. Elizabeth Alsop, though a schoolgirl in her teens, noted some of the sad changes. Tore up curtains for bandages, shriveled mirrors, great and small, strew books about the garden, and removed or destroyed one volume of almost every work, broke up china and glass in the greatest abundance, and managed to it impossible for us ever to get things as they once were. Yet she was able to be with her family for Christmas, and by New Year's Day she wrote, "Well, I have been over the house and find destruction less than I had anticipated. True, almost every room has a ball through it, and the garden is very much torn to pieces, but the little furniture which remains is better than has been represented. I had resolved to commence such a different life on yesterday." Her resolve echoed the soldiers on both sides of the town and river, that somehow change would come through the Christmas pause and through the conflict. During Christmas 1862, the armies along the Rappahannock River in Virginia settled into winter camps, while civilians picked up the pieces of their homes or enjoyed a first holiday in freedom. For some, the holiday came softly and crept away, uncelebrated. For others, Christmas brought reflections and new thoughts to their minds. Still others looked ahead, hoping for a possible victory in the coming year and determining to survive and rebuild their lives. Christmas came in 1862, just like it always does, offering a chance to pause and reflect. And throughout central Virginia, soldiers in blue and gray and home front civilians took that opportunity. Christmas was different that year, but by December 25th, the stars hung low over the new winter camps. War fled for a brief moment. The river flowed, the land waited, and for an instant, peace could reign. And perhaps, as we study and remember that history, we catch a glimpse of imagination of that day when, in the past, the wintry blast goes wailing by, the snow is falling overhead. I hear the lonely sentries tread, and distant watchfires light the sky. Dim forms go flitting through the gloom. The soldiers cluster round the blaze to talk of other Christmas days and softly speak of hearth and home.